There is a very strong connection between intuition and sleep issues are a way our body is trying to tell us something. This is what my guest today shared. In today's episode, we answer three key questions. Have we lost connection to our sleep? Do we understand why we sleep? Can our intuition be telling us through our sleep issues what might be going on? Geeta Sethi's spiritual journey of seeking answers from life after losing her husband to a heart attack at a young age led her to explore the wisdom of Ayurveda, which was not only a trigger for her to live more consciously but change the trajectory of her whole life. She's a holistic chef and holds classes online and supports her tribe in every way. She appeared multiple times on the Influencer Club podcast, Menopause Made Easy podcast, and several more. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, I'm Deepa, light functional medicine practitioner, author and yogini, and you're listening to the Sleep Whisperer podcast, the only sleep podcast with conversations and meditations. I'm on a mission to share profoundly insightful sleep conversations with global visionaries that merge together functional medicine and ancient wisdom. Breathe in bliss through weekly guided meditations and let yourself enter the land of dreams. Together, let's unravel the pieces, get to the roots, and understand the right tools to transform your sleep completely. Through this podcast, I want you to dream the best version of yourself. It's time to regain hope and begin your sleep journey.
Geeta, welcome back to the Sleep Whisperer podcast. Last time we spoke about the magic pill. Today we are talking about intuition and gut feel. And I think people can go back to listen to the other episode if they'd like to know about your journey. Since today I'd like us to stay focused on this topic. Intuition is a big one. I mean, there's so much about it. And I think also I will have certain things popping up in my mind which we'll go through as we go along, because when it comes to intuition, sometimes that word can be misunderstood or understood in a different sense. I want us to really bring attention to what exactly you mean by that gut instinct. So let's start by just talking about have we lost our connection to sleep?
Thank you, Deepa. It's always a pleasure to speak with you and chat with you regarding these topics and regarding health and nutrition. It's always a pleasure. Thank you. And instinct. And when it comes to sleep, I think there is a very strong connection. And I just feel that people, especially when we talk about sleep, when people cannot sleep or when you have sleep issues, the biggest reason is your body is trying to tell you something. And there are layers and layers that we have embedded who we really are in those layers that we disconnect. Because sleep is a very natural aspect of our daily life. If you think of a baby, it's so easy for a baby to sleep because the baby is so centered in who that baby is energetically, physically. That's how a baby lives. Every 2 hours it sleeps. And how is it that what we have in our cellular memory, that as we get older, we develop sleep issues? It's obviously we've lost our connection.
I think, you said something so right, because I remember when I was growing up, I cannot remember a single time where I struggled with sleep. And then, much later it got so severe. I'm just thinking there's so much overlap between the development and improvement of technology and social media. And I really feel this connection to poor sleep is linked not just to blue light when we're using our devices, but also the nature of content, stimulation, just mental health overall, with people comparing themselves on to others on social media. I think there's so many nuances to what you spoke about, because truly, when we are pure and balanced, sleep should just occur within us. And that's something you just made me think about myself when I was growing up. Do we understand why we need to sleep? Is it because somebody's been told they need a particular number of hours? And I do come across this even today while interviewing people for the podcast. And I remember somebody saying very categorically that you must get 8 hours of sleep. And even Ayurveda doesn't talk about it that way, that there's so many nuances to it. I mean, we're dynamic, we're constantly, there's multifactorial things happening around us. And let's just talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I know. I hear you when you say I think it's that disconnection from, and I would say the fact that you're also on a journey to integrate Ayurveda with functional nutrition, that we've got lost in that scientific aspect of proving everything, that we lose the essence of that whole existence of why we do certain things. That is where I was talking about when I said the sixth sense or the gut feeling or the intuition, and when we've created so many layers. For example, as you said, that we've been told that you need 8 hours of sleep. Where did this number come from? This number came from the research they've been doing, that the body performs the best with 3,000, 5,000, or whatever number of people they've done the research. And I'm not saying that is not important. Of course, that's important because that's also evidence. But that number means nothing to somebody who can sleep for 4 hours and function for the rest 20 hours of the day with full energy, perform everything, and then get into proper sleep with 4 hours. How do you justify that? So it's so important to understand that the nuances of having specific guidelines takes away from what the body is trying to tell you. If you feel rested after 4 hours or 5 hours or 8 hours, and some people even need 10 hours, it's basically where you are when you think of your body in terms of health, in terms of energy, in terms of the capacity to perform, the brain, the age of your cells, the way your body is using nutrients. There's so many different aspects. How much repair does your body need? Maybe somebody who's so fit and so active and so connected with the nature that their body recovers within 4 hours at night, and it tells them, it gives them the signal that yes, you're fresh, I've taken care of the intelligence, and the body has taken care of repair and regeneration and the memory, the links and connections which the brain needs to process that information and create into long-term memory and processing all that it tells the signal the body gets is it's time to wake up. And those people are so aligned with the rhythm of their own body, the circadian rhythm, that they're able to wake up at 5. So I feel the more you're connected to what your body is trying to tell you, all this is noise. These are just layers.
That said, Geeta, I must smile and disagree with you that somebody, I mean, I'm always telling people 4 hours is absolutely not enough sleep. So I will choose to disagree on that one, that maybe that I just feel, I mean, what I'm saying is that I always look deeper when something like that is going on, that, there might be some hyper alertness going on, and therefore they're getting away with feeling like they don't need more than that. But I do dig a little deeper, and I think I should just talk about those nuances as well. Yeah, you had something to say?
Yes, and when I said 4 hours of sleep is enough, what I meant is definitely intuitively you need to be aware of it. But that being said, I can tell you most of us, in fact, I would say 99.9% of the people do not function well with 4 hours of sleep. You have to be really in a very, very high So I have a background in my experience in spirituality where I have seen people who are meditating and who've got so much of energy and so much of prana, the life force, that they can function with 4 hours of sleep. So don't take me in that realm.
On that note, I think we must talk about this. You made an important point, because one of the things I see a lot on social media, because today a lot of spiritual leaders, spiritual gurus in India do talk about you don't need more than 4 hours, 5 hours. And I'm always disagreeing with this, because let me give my perspective, because this is an important point to highlight, is that both my husband and I have spent time in the Himalayas, and he spent much longer, 2 years, in a cave in the upper Himalayas with his master. And there is a huge difference between what we are going through as a lifestyle, our diet in an ashram, in a setting where we are not exposed to the stimulating effects, in a setting that's not requiring us to be working so much. Our mind is far more relaxed. It's not using up as much of energy as we are on thinking on how to deal with stress at work or stress in the family. And so my husband and I have this discussion a lot, that we cannot be bringing those principles when we are living family life. And I think traditional Himalayan masters made this difference a point to illustrate to everybody that there's a world of difference living up in the Himalayas and coming down to the earth and family life and what we're doing involved in everything. So I'm always disagreeing with the spiritual, because there are some more modern spiritual leaders today who are very active on social media, unlike the hidden Himalayan masters that we kind of grew up in the ashram with. And I think it's just irresponsible for them to be making statements such as you just need 4 hours, when typically the disciples who even going to these places today are not living the same life as the master, because they are in family life. They come to these ashrams just for brief periods of time. So I'm always in disagreement with that, but I was glad you raised that point, because it was an important one.
Yes, very much. And I'm glad that we clarified that, because that is what it is. 99.9% of us, we cannot live with that environment. We are not staying there. We are exposed to chemicals, and we are exposed to the stresses of everyday life. And that's the reason why 4 hours is not enough. But the most important aspect is knowing that when you wake up in the morning, you're rested. And that is what and that could be for whatever number of hours. It's not so specific, but that's where intuition comes in. What is it that your body is telling you? And if you're not waking up rested, again, what is it that your body is trying to tell you?
I think that's a good point that you spoke about. And on that note, I think we should talk about what is the body telling us. So if through our sleeping challenges, or whether we are waking up alert or not feeling rested, how can we use our intuition to understand what's happening inside of us?
Most of the time when people are not able to sleep, it's because their brains are overactive, their mind is overactive. And we always, in Ayurveda, we call it most of the time, it's a vata imbalance, that you're not able to sleep because you're supposed to calm down and you're supposed to relax and let your mind go to rest. When that doesn't happen, so for me, it's very important that anytime when a client says that I'm not being able to sleep, my first question is, okay, what's going on in your life? And are there any stresses? Do you have work pressure? Is there something going on in your family life? And I'm going to share an example. And I had a client. I've been working with the client, and again, I won't get into the detail, but her story was that she had gone through a bit of a divorce a couple of years ago, and we'd been working on. So I knew the triggers in her life which had led her to whatever the issues that she was experiencing. And then a couple of months later, her mom came on to become a client, and she hadn't even become a client. We were just having a discovery call. And her main reason for coming on board was that I cannot sleep. And I've always been a good sleeper. In the last 3 years, I have not been able to sleep. And I asked her, when is it, like, since when did you were not able to sleep? And she said 3 years ago. And then suddenly it struck me that that was the exact time when her daughter started going through a divorce. So she was a single mother who had brought up her daughter and with a lot of care and was very involved. And when that major event happened in her life, that is what it triggered. So for me, of course, there was more to it, but that was a big trigger for her, that since then, the mom had not been able to sleep, but she hadn't been able to understand what was going on. So it's typically sometimes we're not even aware of it, that there are triggers happening in our life, or maybe a couple of things that have happened in the past, or a mind becomes overactive, which could be causing. So it's very important to kind of understand where are you in terms of your stress levels, because that has a direct link. Then there are other things. There could be chemical imbalances in the brain, but again, all those fall back into your lifestyle. It's like there is sleep hygiene, which I had shared in my previous podcast with you about certain things. What kind of exposure do you have before you sleep? Are you eating late? Are you getting your digestive system active? Are you reading something which is very provocative, or it can lead you to having anxiety or overthinking? So those can be there. There could be chemical imbalances as well, because of certain dietary choices that you have, which creates sugar spikes and drops, which could prevent you from sleeping, or maybe even not even being able to sleep, but even being able to stay asleep. So a couple of things which can be happening, which could be at the root of why not being able to sleep.
Any final words, Geeta, to talk us through intuition and how we can use it, perhaps, because you did that story about your friend was beautiful. And I was just thinking when you spoke about it that these are not questions typically asked by the doctors as what's going on in your life, right? Somebody goes there and saying they're not sleeping and they handed sleeping medication. And I think we spoke a little bit about this on your previous episode on how sleeping medication may have a spot sometimes in crisis or stress, but we need to understand the impact. But these are not really questions anybody asks, because they don't really try to understand the whole person behind it. And so often, I think if I really would say that while we all know that stress is a big trigger for all imbalance, especially sleep, I think it's become a little bit like wallpaper in social media, because everybody is talking about it. So people are watching it, reading about it, and just ignoring practices that need to be consistently. It's almost as if it's become something there lying in your room. So that stress has this impact. And I had this client who was going through a very stressful episode and was trying to do pranayama and saying even your pranayama doesn't work. And I'm always reiterating that doing something like that under pressure is not going to have much effect. You're trying to do these practices so that you improve the resilience of your nervous system and allow it to handle these stress. So any final words to talk us through this?
Hello, can you hear me? Yeah, okay. There was a lag in. Okay, yeah, so definitely, I think there's a lot of noise, as you pointed out, that we're listening to so much, but we are not really listening. We are disconnected from the essence of what is being said to us, because it's being repeated and repeated and repeated. It's like the brain has become immune to it. You're not really paying attention. And this is what I feel like, even as a functional nutritionist, when I work with the terrain, those are very basic, simple things which have the biggest impact when you're trying to bring the body back in balance. And that's again because you're so disconnected from who you are and your essence. Because if you're connected to who you are, your body will tell you that I just need basic, simple things. I need food which is very easy to digest and for me to break down. I need basics. Again, coming back to sleep, I just need to be able to calm down and relax. Just don't do it for the sake of because you've heard somewhere. Do it why? Because your body is trying to tell you something and it needs that. It's craving that, but you're just not listening to it. It's going outwards and looking for a solution outwards rather than looking for solution inwards. You have all the answers. Your body has all the answers. It's just you're not listening to it because you're so lost in the noise around you.
Beautifully said, Geeta. Thank you again for giving your time. And where can people go? Just remind us again.
Thank you, Deepa. I have a website under the name of livingwellwithgeeta.com, and people can also reach me on Facebook under the same handle or Instagram under Living Well with Geeta, and I have a YouTube channel also under the name of Living Well with Geeta.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for your time once again.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to speak with you. Thank you.
Peek behind the curtain of my fabulous healing digestion course, where I spill the beans on everything from the ABCs of digestion to cracking the code on those pesky tummy troubles. Whether you're aiming to build a rock solid digestive system or morph into your own gut guru, this course is your ultimate guide. Blend the ancient wisdom of Ayurveda with the modern magic of functional medicine, dive into clean eating secrets, unravel the mysteries of doshas, untangle digestion from ancient and new perspective, discover a secret sauce that unravels all health confusion. Explore gut testing wonders, compare historical belly battles with modern ones, decode trendy protocols, build a powerhouse foundation for top-notch digestion, analyze every food from both angles, master the art of herb, and whip up scrumptious meal ideas. You can get all of this on www.ohahealth.com. Have a great day.
This podcast is intended to provide helpful and informative material on the subject matter covered in the episodes. The podcast is not acting in the capacity of a doctor or a registered dietitian and is not rendering any professional healthcare or medical service. The information in the podcast is not intended as a substitute for medical advice or services or as treatment or cure for any particular health condition. The advice and tools contained herein may not be suitable for your situation. Any medical questions regarding contraindications and cautions or any questions on whether or not to proceed with any practices provided in the show should be referred to qualified health professionals before adopting the same. The podcast specifically disclaims any responsibility for any liability, loss, risk, personal or otherwise, which may be incurred as a direct or indirect consequence of the use of information from this podcast or the application, adoption of any of the information provided.